Working mom, and she goes, it can be incredibly overwhelming. Oh my gosh, I just need a break.
Wow.
And then we find out she's had a full-time nanny for 5 years.
What?
Who takes the kids to school.
What do you guys do at home?
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
For years, Meghan Markle has controlled her image with the precision of a Hollywood director. Every camera angle, every headline, every candid photo crafted like a scene from her own royal movie. But when the lights fade and the lens stops rolling, what really happens behind those mansion gates? According to one woman who was there, one who saw, heard, and lived it, the fairy tale wasn't quite what the world was told. This isn't another royal gossip story. This is the voice Meghan never wanted you to hear. The nanny who claims that working inside the Sussex home felt less like childcare and more like surviving a perfectly staged illusion.
Another nanny nightmare for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry.
She says the rules were bizarre, the atmosphere tense, and the family moments more rehearsed than real. Behind Meghan's dazzling speeches about compassion and authenticity, this insider paints a different picture, one of control, secrecy, and a haunting question that no PR team can spin away. If the Sussex family life was truly so perfect, why did those who lived inside its walls feel like outsiders looking in? And just when you think you've heard it all, wait until you hear what she says about Archie and Lilibet.
The nanny that the couple have been relying on for some time wants out.
Because according to her, that's where the story turns from strange to shocking. Before the nanny ever stepped foot inside the Sussex mansion, the job description alone made her pause. It wasn't a royal listing, it read more like a casting call. Every word was precise, every requirement oddly personal. Meghan, she was told, wanted a caregiver who was discreet, adaptable, and not distracting. Translation, someone competent but not too noticeable. Rumor among staff suggested Meghan didn't want anyone in her home who could outshine the brand. Candidates whispered that looks, social presence, even relationship status were quietly scrutinized.
Meghan Markle and Prince Harry had got through 3 nannies in just 6 weeks, and that's because working for this couple is incredibly difficult.
A nanny with her own children? Too complicated. Someone in a relationship? Too risky. The message was clear. Your entire life must orbit around Meghan's. The job didn't just demand professionalism, it demanded devotion. Calls for flexibility weren't about schedules, but about loyalty. Late-night requests, constant availability, and zero personal privacy became unspoken expectations. What should have been a family role felt more like serving in a private institution where one wrong word could end everything. Even stranger, applicants were told the children's access was on Meghan's terms only. No clear hours, no casual affection, no natural bonding, just order, silence, and precision. The nanny almost turned it down until curiosity got the better of her. Because beneath all those polished instructions, one line stood out. All activities within the residence are subject to observation. She didn't realize how literal that warning truly was.
Once the agency creates a list of potential hires, you meet with that nanny. Then you have to meet with another one of Meghan's assistants. These are 2 separate auditions. Then you sign an NDA, which grants you access to Harry and Meghan. So this is the 3rd interview.
When the nanny arrived at the Sussex property, she expected an interview, not an audition under surveillance. From the moment she stepped through the door, something felt off. The home was immaculate, but eerily quiet, as if every sound had been carefully rehearsed. She was told to go about a normal trial day, tending to the environment, observing routines, staying relaxed. What no one mentioned was that every movement, every gesture was being recorded. Hidden cameras caught how she walked, how she spoke, even how she smiled. Later, she'd learned this wasn't just security. It was Meghan's method of studying potential staff like characters in her own private film. Those who appeared too confident were labeled unmanageable. Those too quiet were not engaging enough. The goal wasn't just finding a nanny. It was finding someone who could blend perfectly into Meghan's curated world. When the formal interview finally came, Meghan's questions felt more like tests of personality control than childcare expertise. How do you handle being corrected? She asked. How do you respond when people misinterpret your intentions? Subtle yet revealing. It was clear the job required emotional obedience, not just skill.
The agency has specifically been instructed to hide Harry and Meghan's identity from the applicant. They just want to make sure you're comfortable working with Meghan because of her reputation.
By the end of the day, the nanny realized she hadn't met a family. She'd entered a production, and like any production, one person always had final cut approval. From the outside, the Sussexes looked united, a royal couple forging their own path. But inside the walls of their California home, quiet disagreements revealed a deeper divide. Harry, raised with within a system of structure and protocol, believed their children deserved the same professionalism he'd grown up around. He wanted a Norland nanny, classically trained, discreet, and loyal to royal tradition. To him, that symbolized stability. Meghan saw things differently. She wanted someone modern, someone who fit her California lifestyle. Informal, stylish, socially aware. The clash wasn't about childcare. It was about identity. Harry's world ran on duty. Meghan's ran on image. Every detail, from the nanny's accent to the way she dressed, became a tug of war between two visions of family life. Sources say the arguments weren't explosive, but tense, filled with long silences and polite smiles masking irritation. Harry would reference his mother's warmth. Meghan countered with independence and privacy. Behind the perfect Instagram smiles, two philosophies quietly collided. In the end, Meghan's vision won. The traditional uniform was gone. The formality disappeared. What remained was a home that reflected her, curated, beautiful, and tightly controlled.
I'm working so hard. Is she really? Or is she just saying she is?
Well, according to their tax documents, they work 1 hour a week.
Harry adjusted, but those close to him noticed the shift. The nanny, standing in the middle of it all, began to realize this wasn't just a household, it was a brand, and even love. Inside those walls seemed to need approval. Among the whispers that floated through the Sussex household, one topic stood apart, and no one dared speak of it openly. The nanny, working long hours within the mansion, began to notice something strange. Despite her constant presence, there were no signs of an expectant mother, no morning visits from doctors, no prenatal care routines, no maternity clothing left in laundry baskets, or signs of preparation for a newborn. At first, she dismissed it as privacy. Meghan, after all, valued control over her personal image. But as days turned into months, the silence became impossible to ignore. Staff quietly traded glances but avoided questions. When public photos appeared showing Meghan with a baby bump, confusion rippled through those who'd been there all along. The nanny later admitted she didn't want to believe the rumors, yet her experience contradicted what the world saw. It just didn't match, she recalled. I never saw what I was supposed to see. Some staff were warned not to comment, told that certain things are not to be discussed. The air grew heavy with tension, as if the truth itself was locked away behind those pristine walls. For a woman who built her brand on authenticity, the contradictions were unsettling. And for those who'd lived inside that reality, one question lingered like an echo in an empty nursery. What exactly were they protecting, privacy or perception?
I'm a great mum, I'm a great wife, I'm a great friend, I'm also incredibly modest. I mean, what a boaster. Stop boasting about yourself. What's wrong with her? She is racked with epic insecurity, isn't she?
Weeks turned into months, yet something about the Sussex home felt strangely incomplete. The rooms were spotless, almost museum-like, too perfect for a house meant to echo with the laughter of small children. The nanny searched for signs of Archie and Lilibet, scattered toys, crayon marks, fingerprints on glass, tiny clothes and hampers, but there was nothing. No bedtime routines, no sounds of crying, not even a misplaced pacifier. It was as if the idea of children existed, but not their presence. She asked herself if perhaps the children stayed elsewhere for privacy, but even on days when family gatherings were rumored to occur, the house remained eerily still. Meals were prepared, yet untouched. Playrooms stayed locked, as though set dressing for a photograph that never happened. The silence grew louder than any sound. Staff spoke carefully, their eyes darting toward the ever-present cameras. No one wanted to be the first to question it. One housekeeper whispered that everything here is managed, even what we're meant to believe. For the nanny, the unease became unbearable. The public saw a loving family, she saw a performance without an audience. And the more she searched for proof of ordinary family life, the more she began to feel that something essential, something human was missing. Her quiet suspicion turned into conviction. This home had children in its story, but not in its reality. When the Sussex's Netflix documentary finally premiered, the nanny watched like the rest of the world. But for her, it was personal. The glossy montages of family life looked nothing like the house she knew. The living room decor was subtly different. The windows faced another direction. Even the sunlight fell differently across the furniture. That wasn't our house, she murmured to a former coworker. At least, not the one we worked in.
But trust me, this is all part of Meghan's sinister plan to commercialize her children, to pimp them out for financial gain, and I'm not being sucked in by it at all.
Scenes showed Meghan cuddling Archie, Harry laughing in a cozy California garden, soft music playing beneath their smiles. But to those who'd spent real time inside their estate, something felt off. Too neat, too perfectly lit. It looked less like home footage, more like a commercial for domestic bliss. She paused on one frame, Meghan sitting on the floor, toys scattered around her. To the audience, it felt intimate. To the nanny, it felt staged. The background didn't match the layout she'd memorized while cleaning every surface. Even the sound of the children's laughter seemed edited, too crisp, too too conveniently placed. The realization was chilling. If the documentary wasn't capturing truth, what was it protecting? What was real and what was simply produced to be believed? As credits rolled, the nanny couldn't shake the thought that the show wasn't documenting a life, it was inventing one. Working in the Sussex residence felt less like serving a family and more like living inside a controlled fortress. From the moment staff arrived, personal phones were surrendered. Each visitor, cleaner, and gardener had to pass through multiple checkpoints, their devices sealed in opaque pouches before stepping foot inside. Conversations were limited to what was necessary for work. Anything beyond that, even casual small talk, could be grounds for dismissal. The nanny recalled how the air itself felt monitored. Cameras watched hallways, doorways, and even the outdoor paths. There were whispers that microphones had been discreetly embedded into certain rooms for safety reasons. But to staff, it didn't feel like safety. It felt like surveillance. People stopped confiding in each other. Friendships faded into stiff politeness. A simple question like, "How are you?" could earn a warning for overstepping. Meghan's demand for privacy, the nanny realized, had become an obsession, one that blurred the line between protection and paranoia. Even Harry, once easygoing and warm, appeared more withdrawn under the constant tension. His laugh, rare now, echoed briefly in corridors, then vanished like it wasn't supposed to exist. By the end of each day, staff walked out silent, exhausted, and uneasy. The home that promised peace had turned into a stage built on secrecy, and behind those perfectly trimmed hedges, trust had become the rarest luxury of all.
Archie and Lily have finally been unmasked. Oh, H, they're already out there. They're already out there, H. So of course I've got to use them to sell my clothes, to sell my wine, to sell my makeup, to sell whatever else comes next, probably children's clothing at some point.
The nanny began to notice a strange pattern. Every time cameras or photographers were scheduled to visit, the entire atmosphere inside the home transformed. Rooms that sat untouched for weeks were suddenly filled with flowers and children's toys that hadn't been there before. Blankets appeared neatly folded on chairs, books arranged just so, and framed photos of the family materialized overnight. It wasn't natural chaos, it was a set being dressed for a scene. On one particular morning, Meghan's team prepared for a private family shoot. The children were supposedly present, but the house remained silent. No giggles, no crying, no movement upstairs. When the photographers arrived, Meghan appeared radiant, calm, collected, camera ready. Every angle seemed rehearsed, every interaction timed. She smiled, looked down tenderly, then turned slightly toward the lens. To the nanny, it wasn't motherhood, it was marketing. Later, when the famous chicken coop photos surfaced, Meghan in jeans, feeding hens with the kids, staff exchanged uneasy glances. None of them recalled that moment ever taking place. The setting looked familiar, but the children in the images didn't. It became clear that family scenes weren't captured. They were constructed. Each snapshot, each smiling frame served a narrative, not a memory. And as the nanny scrolled through the glowing headlines praising Meghan's real family life, she felt only a quiet chill, because behind those perfect photos, reality had long been cropped out. In the end, the nanny's story isn't one of revenge, it's one of release. After years spent inside a home where truth was filtered through image, she chose to step out from the shadows and speak, not for fame, but for peace. Her account may never appear in glossy interviews or polished documentaries, but it lingers, raw, unsettling, and unfiltered. What she described wasn't hatred, but heartbreak, a quiet observation of how authenticity can vanish behind the flash of a camera. For all the glamour, privacy, and power, the most haunting thing inside those walls wasn't scandal, it was silence. And maybe that's the real revelation, that sometimes the stories we're shown are crafted not to inform us, but to protect the people who wrote them. If this story left you questioning what's real and what's rehearsed, you won't want to miss what came before it. In our previous investigation about how Harry is in shock as Sarah Ferguson exposed Meghan's yacht days with Andrew, the puzzle pieces behind Meghan's carefully shaped past begin to fall into place. So before you go, make sure to watch it now on Star Spotlight, where the truth behind the headlines is always just one story away.